Good morning. Welcome to the First Religious Society, Unitarian Universalist in Newburyport, Massachusetts. I'm Charlie Himmel, and I have the privilege of serving as your worship associate this morning. Thank you for joining us online this snowy Sunday. We're sorry not to be together in person and grateful that we can still gather this way. If you are joining us for the first time, welcome. We're glad you're here. If you're new and you'd like to connect, please send an email to info@frsuu.org. We will be sure to add you to our email list. To access this morning's order of service, please click on the link in the chat. Please take a moment to review the order of service for all the activities happening this week. The Congregational Board meeting, originally scheduled for this morning, has been rescheduled and will take place during worship on February 23rd. We hope you will join us for that special service and to a meeting immediately following that service in Parish Hall, where those who are interested in what we are doing to organize around issues of immigration can come together to learn more and volunteer or sign up on our special call to action list serve. We come together at FRS in person and online, committed to love, peace, and justice. Our mission and our invitation to all of you is to come as you are. Journey together in love, act with courage, and transform our world. Each Sunday, it is such a blessing that we can gather, so let us give ourselves to it. Welcome once again. It's good to be together.
Charlie, yes, indeed. It is good to be together. So I would ask all of us to just take a moment and take a breath and be here. I see a question about the orders of service and hymns. I'm wondering if anyone has a link to those that went out this morning that we could put into the chat so that people can have those. Good morning, snowbirds. Good morning, Ray. Is anybody going to be able to share a link for the order of service? There we go. Thank you, Hugh. Here is our order of service, which also should have the hymns, or those may be a slightly different link. So before we start here now formally with the rest of the service and the call to worship again, I just invite all of us to take a moment and come here now. Each of us from our own places and mornings and busyness and shoveling and wondering and sitting. Perhaps, like me, you're finding this very reminiscent of years gone by when the pandemic, COVID, was in its full extreme, and what it felt like to be separated, not together in body. It is amazing what our body remembers and knows. So if, like me, you're experiencing that, just allow it to be. Perhaps this morning you are nervous and excited to share what you thought would be done in person. All of our beautiful, beautiful souls who are going to be a part of this service this morning, sharing about our history, the history of this church, of Black residents in our city. Let's be here with these people who've given so much to share what they are today, sharing, and who are willing to pivot and be online once again. Perhaps you are distracted, and maybe that can be okay, and at the same time, you can lay it down. Lay it down, giving yourself fully to this next period of time. Feel the love and the connection, the humanness and the care that is gathered here online. This morning, our call to worship is from UU Minister Kate Walker. We covenant to practice interdependence. We honor the interdependent web of all existence, to practice pluralism. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. To practice justice, we work to be the diverse, multicultural, beloved community where all thrive. To practice transformation, we adapt to the changing world. To practice generosity, we cultivate a spirit of gratitude and love. To practice equity, we declare that every person and all beings are inherently worthy and have the right to flourish with dignity, love, compassion, and safety. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. You are faithfully called to worship.
Our first hymn this morning is Just as Long as I Have Breath. You may sing along, but please do keep your microphone muted. Here we are. Good morning, everybody. Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, for celebration of the life we share together.
Each Sunday, we also light 2 candles of peace, representing 2 places on earth we lift up and remember as a sacred encounter with our world. We know that there are untold numbers of places on earth that need peace, and these 2 we will especially hold close in this service and through the week ahead. After each candle is lit, I invite us all to respond by saying peace in 3 languages: peace, salam, shalom. Our first candle this morning is lit for a special place in your mind, and heart. Bringing into your consciousness, your awareness, a place that is causing for your heart and mind the most concern. Holding that place in your consciousness. The people who reside there, the land, all that is in that place. We pray and work for peace. To this we respond, peace, salam, shalom. And our second candle this morning, as I'm watching the snow continue to fall, is for our earth and all her creatures, all the innocents, all those who rely upon those of us who have power and influence, which is all of us, to do each and everything that we can to save this earth, her creatures, the world, each other and ourselves. To this we respond, peace, salam, shalom. Let's join our voices. You can keep your selves muted, which I wish wasn't true, but let's join our voices anyway in our affirmation of faith, followed by the doxology. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God.
From all that dwell below the skies, let faith and hope with love arise. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung through every land by every tongue.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Andy Lobb, along with Glee Woodworth. Glee, give us a wave. I know you're out there in one of those squares. We are very excited to be with you today to share two presents for our 300th birthday. But before we rip off the wrapping paper, we'd like to extend a hearty UU thank you to the many individuals and funders who supported this year-long project. The names, please, when you get a chance, look at page 4 of your online program. And when you see these folks, please give them, again, that hearty thank you. Their generosity, enthusiasm, and teamwork made these gifts possible. As you will see shortly, these presents are very different. One is high-tech, modern, and the other is low-tech and ancient. But they were developed to address a similar need, which is accessibility, which coincidentally was the focus of last Sunday's thought-provoking program. During our docent-led tours of the meeting house, we noticed that some guests were unable to physically access the balcony to see the organ, let alone climb those stairs up the steeple for that awesome view of our city. To address this need, we made a video of the FRS campus by flying a drone through the church, around the organ, up the attic, out the belfry, and along the steeple to the weathercock, which is 155.5 feet above the ground. This unique 3-minute video will be shown on a large monitor during future tours and is available right now on the FRS website. Thank you, Nick. As you may have noticed in the video, the congregation also kept clock parts with a very interesting history in the attic. According to the story, a gentleman, excuse me, by the name of Ben Franklin, I'm sure some of you may have heard of him, dropped by the church in 1754 to capture his observations of the impact of a lightning strike on the then Third Parish Meeting House and clock. That was our original church on Market Square. Franklin's observations of the lightning strike were detailed in written correspondence with scientific colleagues and advanced his theories on the conductivity of electricity and development of the lightning rod. Wow. Now, that is a story that deserves greater visibility and access. But almost after 300 years, could the remaining parts be reassembled into something that resembles a clock? Unfortunately, the answer is no. 500 pounds of clock parts were donated during a World War II scrap drive, and now less than 20% of the parts remain. Based on this information, we built the exhibit to focus on the most recognizable of the remaining parts, which is the hour hand. There was no minute hand. We also designed it to be mobile for easy access and transportation. One last fun fact before the unveiling. The date of the 1754 lightning strike was February 9th, exactly 271 years ago today. Now, we'd like to ask everyone to come forward to help us remove the wrapping paper. Why not? We're all virtual, right? So gather around. Do you each have a firm grip on the sheet? Okay, on a count of 3, let's pull it off. 1, 2, 3. The exhibit, which is approximately 7 foot tall and 4 foot wide, will be temporarily housed in Parish Hall. Signage and a QR code and laminated documents will be added to help us share this story. Thank you and happy birthday.
The generosity of our community is an essential ministry that supports the work of the church, both in Newburyport and beyond. Each week, 50% of the Sunday offering, not designated as a pledge, goes to a local community partner engaged in important efforts to transform our region. Our community partner this month is the Mass Coalition to Prevent Gun Violence. The Massachusetts Coalition to Prevent Gun Violence brings together over 90 organizations across the state, including First Religious Society, to end the epidemic of gun violence by advocating for the improved policies around gun safety and partnering with community organizations working to end gun violence in their neighborhoods. To give online, please use the link in your order of service or in the chat. You can also make a contribution by text, and, of course, you can always mail a check to the church as well. Thank you. The offering will now be gratefully received.
Thank you, Nick, and everyone. This is a time in our service when we pause to lift up the joys and the sorrows of our beloved faith community. This morning, I'll be sharing those that have been sent with me in advance, but also inviting all of us who are here today, if you're so moved, to write in the chat a joy or a sorrow, a hope or a dream that you have, and I will share what I am able to do. But please share now as Nick starts us off with our sanctuary song.
Open my heart to be a sanctuary, all made holy, loved and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
This morning, we light a candle in our hearts, a candle of joy shared by Rob Burnham, who wrote this. I joined FRS-UU 30 years ago this year, while Reverend Doris Hunter was the interim minister. I was impressed, Rob says, by her inclusion of Thich Nhat Hanh and tea ceremonies. After signing the membership book, she turned and said to me, Now it's time to grab an oar. What committee do you want to join? We light a candle of care and concern as Bill and Martha Heenahan share and ask for our loving thoughts. Bill was admitted to the hospital on Friday with flu A, dehydration, and pneumonia. He has other health issues along with this, so this is a difficult new challenge. Let us all hold them in our love and care, and in the between us, their address will also be shared. We light a candle of love and care as well for Rob Close and Betsy Hazen, and ask that we keep them in our loving thoughts and prayers as Rob fell on the ice on Friday as he was snowblowing. He fractured 4 ribs, which caused a lung injury, partially collapsed lung, and fluid in the lung. He is at Anna Jake's still with morphine as needed and monitoring. They do hope that he will be home soon. Calls and texts are very welcome using Betsy's phone number, which I'll put into the chat when I'm finished and also will be in between us. We light a candle of blessed memory and love as we share the news that Nathan Wilbur died last week. Nathan, as many of us know, was the husband of Meryl Maleska Wilbur, and of course the father of Liam, all of them being longtime members of FRS, Liam growing up here, Nathan and Meryl being just, beacons of this congregation for decades. This came far too soon, particularly after Meryl's passing almost precisely 2 years ago, but certainly this month. News will be shared when the date for his memorial service here at FRS has been scheduled. I'm going to see if there's anyone. Sorry, I have to toggle. I want to see if I've got anybody here in the chat. Bear with me. Let's see. Do we have any? We do. So Sandra Thaxter is asking that we light a candle of care and concern for the HIV positive members of the Bungoma Kenyan community who are presently unable to receive their HIV/AIDS medications. This may change, we hope, but there is a lot of fear among these caring people. Let's see if anyone else wanted to share. We light a candle as we do each time that we gather for all of the sorrows and all of the joys, all of the hopes, all of the dreams and all of the fears of this beloved faith community and the world, that although unspoken are held in just as much love and care. And if you're so moved in your heart and even in your own home, let's join together now with Nick in singing Sanctuary.
Open my heart to be a sanctuary, all made holy, loved and true. With thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
I invite you now to join me in a spirit of prayer, meditation, and contemplation. I'll read a brief prayer poem by Alfred Lamott, one of my favorites, and then we'll sit together in a couple of minutes of shared silence. This entitled Space for Rent. In heaven, there is a sign, this space for rent. God lives down here now. She loves to walk barefoot on our dusty roads, brushing the cheek of the child who trots along beside her. She reaches out to hold the contagious hand. She pauses to fill the madman's eyes with hers. Their faces are mirrors leaning together, hollow corridors of wonder. We are all like that, just lead and emptiness, polished by life's love. She came here for this gazing. What sparkled in the stars shines inside us now. You think I'm kidding? Try this breath. And let us sit together now in shared silence, contemplation, recentering, and meditation. Love, peace, and justice in this world and within ourselves. May it be so.
Our reading this morning are excerpts from Newburyport Black History Initiative Interpretive Sign on Lower Green Street, remembering the women who raised America. Around 1900, most Black women needed to work to survive, but rigid racial hierarchies limited their options. Nearly 40% of the Black women living in Newburyport worked as domestic servants. They often worked 12 to 18-hour days and were on-call servants. Servants wore white, high-collared, long-sleeved dresses as uniforms so that their role was immediately recognizable. It was common for employers to say their live-in servants were part of the family. But for many workers, however, the bond was complicated and turnover was more common. Frequent articles in the local newspaper complained about the problem of finding enough women to fill these roles, but did not mention the servants' long hours, low pay, dependence, and isolation.
Thank you, Charlie. Watching that stunning video reminded me of the treasures for which we, the First Religious Society, are responsible. Thank you to everyone who's giving their time and talent towards this year of celebration. But today we go back in history on another topic. After the Civil War, hundreds of Black and immigrant women labored, as Charlie said, as domestic servants in the home of Newburyport's affluent families. Today, we recognize Newburyport resident Caroline C. Cottrell, who was born into slavery in North Carolina in 1856. However, for Ms. Cottrell, her role was not forgotten by the keepers of Greater Newburyport's history, among others, the Museum of Old Newbury, Public Library Archives, Glee Woodworth, who is here today and responsible for helping with the clock we saw earlier, and other local people too numerous to name who have long helped preserve such family stories. Ta-Nehisi Coates, author of the quote in today's order of service, writes about reparations for past racial discrimination injustices, particularly the loss of generational wealth. Those injustices continue today, and if we want to put a deserving community in our prayers, we might consider Altadena, California, one of the few places in the history of Greater Los Angeles where Black citizens were allowed to own homes. Most of today's Altadena citizens lost memories of their proud ancestors. Actually, I understand it's almost all of those homes were lost. But worse, in the rebuilding those completely destroyed neighborhoods, these descendants are in danger of being pushed out by gentrification, losing the greatest part of their legacy, that is, generational wealth. So for today, what the initiative is doing locally, filling in unsung heritage of Black Newburyporters, that falls woefully short of the kind of reparations Mr. Coates addresses. However, turning overlooked histories into publicly accessible installations is a start. As many of you know, that is the mission of the Newburyport Black History Initiative, which I will refer to from now on as the initiative. Its mission is to bring light to such stories by installing interpretive panels around Newburyport's downtown. We currently have 11 signs installed and are dedicating each one at a time, such as today's chapter, as Charlie mentioned, entitled Remembering the Women Who Raised America. We are rescheduling the public unveiling of this sign located not far from the church on Lower Green Street. Weather permitting, and that's asking a lot apparently this winter, the ceremony on Green Street will be next Sunday, February 16 at noon. These works are possible because of the commitment of my two initiative co-founders and principal authors for all the signs, Newburyport Senior Project Manager Jordy Vining and Northeastern Professor Dr. Cabria Baumgartner. For our efforts, the initiative received the 2024 Leadership in History Award of Excellence. So this is breaking news for some of you, by the American Association for State and Local History. For more information online, search Newburyport Black History Initiative or go to the City of Newburyport website where you'll find a downloadable walking tour map of the other 10 signs. If you would like to learn more about today's sermon or the initiative in general, stay after the Zoom service and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Our chalice lighters are an original Seeing White study group, classes that this church offered coming up on 5 years ago. I mention this because the First Religious Society Anti-Racism Task Force gave our congregation a call to action. And I'm grateful to those members and to these 5 chalice lighters, plus Hugh Martinez, for being a support for the initiative since its inception. Hugh's name is not listed in your order of service, probably due to a fault of my own and an error I consider egregious. Now that the 6 of us have been studying together so long, we call ourselves still Seeing White. It's time to learn how Caroline C. Cottrell is connected to our congregation. Caroline was the live-in domestic servant for one of our longtime member families, the Morrells. She helped raise Gaydon W. Morrell, who grew up to be a distinguished mayor of Newburyport. Last weekend, I spoke to Mayor Morrell's granddaughter, Mary Gaydon Haslinger, who many of you know. Mary tells me the whole family knew her grandfather loved and adored Caroline, whom he called Tear. Mary said her older cousins also referred to her as Tear, many of them never knowing her full name. In Charlie's reading earlier this morning was the line, "It was common for employers to say their live-in servants were part of the family," implying whether they were or not. For the Morals, though, that assertion would be more true than most. For example, Ms. Cottrell is buried in the Morrill family plot in Amesbury. Also, she was not coerced to attend this church, but claimed as her own the Green Street Baptist Church that today is Mission Oak Grill and Steeple Hall. If one is standing at Caroline's interpretive sign, one can look up and across Green Street and see the steeple of her beloved church. Focusing on the underappreciated role of post-Civil War domestic servants made me wonder how much of a role Miss Cottrell played in the shaping of Mayor Gaydon's character. Caroline could read and write and seemed to provide a steady and comforting guidance for the future leader, whose achievements included spearheading the construction of Newburyport High School, raising not only private donations, but also federal funding, unheard of in that era. Perhaps Caroline's correspondence with her nieces and the joy those letters brought was not lost on little Gaydon. Could these factors have played even a small part in his quest for public education for all? Perhaps not, but I say it can't be ruled out. And it should be clear, I'm speaking for myself alone and not my fellow initiative members on this one. And in another note regarding the Morrill family, in keeping with our 300th anniversary celebration, back in the day, the Morrill family owned pew number 13. Turning to the Cottrell family, the initiative is indebted to Kristen Fellhaber for her research on Caroline's descendants, specifically John Miller, a grandson of one of Ms. Cottrell's beloved nieces. After Kristen initially contacted John a couple years ago, he was inspired to take out the family Bible, and when he did, a postcard he had never seen before dropped to the floor. The postcard had been sent in 1913 from Caroline to Carrie, her niece and namesake. If you visit the initiative's interpretive sign on Lower Green Street, you can see a copy of that postcard, as well as an example of Caroline's signature, whose penmanship puts mine to shame. By the way, in a call I had with Mr. Miller this week, I found out we attended the same beautiful liberal arts college in Tacoma, Washington, only a few years apart. Not only that, but for over 35 years, I lived at 207 High Street, the house right next door to where Ms. Cottrell dwelled at Morrill Place, 209 High Street. Small world, small world. In our conversation, John expressed his gratitude for the journey that all of our efforts have led him on. A journey of, in his words, recapturing family history and passing it down to my children and grandchildren. He was especially grateful that although he long had several pictures of Caroline, his great aunt, he didn't know who she was. And as he put it, Kristen helped piece things together to keep his great aunt alive. And now, Caroline C. Cottrell's descendants can carry this recognition of the wider world and pass the honor along to generations to come. When John and I both were in agreement that Caroline's life wasn't just a Black story, it was an American story, he added, and I quote, "Black history is in the fabric of the history of our country, and no one should forget that." Let's revisit Mr. Coates' quote. Struggle for the memory of your ancestors. Struggle for wisdom. Struggle for your grandmother and grandfather, for your name. So be it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sid. That's wonderful. And thank you for agreeing to stay on when we wrap up the service and answer questions and have further conversation. And I look forward to seeing everyone at the unveiling next Sunday after Reverend Stan is preaching. So that will be at noon. And I'm flipping back here. Let's join now in our closing hymn, number 128, For All That Is Our Life. Good, Nick.
All right, here we are. For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use. We build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
Normally, we would be extinguishing our chalice at this time, and as we do for memorial services and other times that it's important to remember, we will actually leave our flame burning. But I do invite everyone to join us now in our unison benediction. I've just put the words into the chat, and they're in your order of service. May the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts to flight all fears, which reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us, now and always. My friends, as we gather here this morning online, may we do so with gratitude. May we do so with open hearts and open minds. May we do so remembering that in this complicated and often difficult time, there is so much good. There are friends, there are loved ones, there are snowflakes, there are clocks restored and history remembered. There's poetry, there's song, there's being together, always. So may we go from this place with our hearts lifted up, with our hands open wide and our minds open wider. May we go saying yes to what it is that we are called to do and be. Go in peace, my friends, and return again in great joy. Amen and blessed be. Thank you, Nick. Amazing. Beautiful. What a gorgeous service. Thank you to everyone who pivoted, and Nick for being here as though you've always been here. I think we will, yeah, we'll take a moment and get started. So if anyone needs to, I mean, we'll start right in, but if you need to use the restroom, get a cup of coffee, whatever you need to do. And I think we'll open it up. I'm not quite sure how to do this, but maybe Sid and Andy and Glee at least can be visible and answer some questions or have some conversation. Yes, thank you, everyone. And Susan is asking about how to see the video. Andy, Nick, I know it's on the website, or is there more you'd like to suggest, Andy?
I'm not sure other than that. It's on the website, yeah.
It's
Nick?
available on the website, and it's also on our YouTube channel.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And what we'll also do is put it into the steeple this week. So there'll be multiple ways you can keep watching it and sharing it. And it's just such a gift. So thank you for that. I would say to just go ahead and unmute. We're all being very polite. If you've got questions or feedback or comments to any of our folks who shared today, please just unmute.
Well, I'll start by saying I just put in the chat the link to the Black History Initiative in case anybody wants to download that walking tour and print it out, or at least know where they can find it in the future.
Thank you, Sid. What a great addition to our city as well.
More than welcome. And also, Glee, you know a lot about the Morrow family and Caroline Cottrell. If you wanted to add anything, I'm sure people will be welcome.
Just that we met John, the great nephew, Kristen from the Museum of Old Newbury, and Bob Morrow, the grandson of Gaydon Morrow. And we met him over at Amesbury. I showed Kristen, and we met to see Caroline's gravestone at the Morrow gravesite over in Amesbury. So that was a lot of fun to meet John and his wife. They were thrilled to see Caroline's grave stone and meet Bob. And they also, I believe, met Mary Hasslinger too, I believe. So
yes, he told me he met Mary as well.
Okay, good. Yeah, so that was a lot of fun to kind of circle around with Caroline's family.
And I'm sure he mentioned it at the time, but he'd always wanted to come here when he knew that there was a relative. Then, of course, he made it happen. But yes, he spoke a lot about the time you all took with him, and he was very appreciative of that as well.
Just want to say thank you all. At first I was like, oh, look, we're all so well behaved. And then you texted me and said, we can't unmute. I was like, oh, that's what's happening. So we've changed that. You should be able to unmute now.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think
It's kind of funny. I was like, wow.
Thanks, Reverend Rebecca. That's just you. It is still telling me I can't start my video because the host has disabled it. So I'm not sure if it's.
Oh, that's why you were all off video. Yeah. I feel so much better. I was like, hey, why is everyone on camera?
I don't know what's with the video, but if someone could re-enable that'd be good.
Yeah.
Good.
I just fixed it. Yeah.
Thank you.
There we go.
Oh,
not
there
fair, Hugh. Not fair. There you are, center stage.
Wow, Hugh, I thought I had a nice candle, but look at yours. Woo!
That's right.
Now that's a chalice.
Yeah.
Right. All of our chalice lighters, or most of them anyway, had a candle ready. And I think
Yes.
I showed mine. So
So I have
we were
I have a
ready.
question for both of the presenters, but Sid, I'm curious about if we want to learn more about the women who raised America, are there resources for that, or how can we learn more about more of their stories?
The best resource we have in Newburyport, very fortunate, she's a member of the initiative, Dr. Baumgartner. So I encourage you to reach out to her. Also on the Newburyport Black History Initiative web page in the city's website, there are links to all the signs. And yeah, there's that Cabria would be Dr. Baumgartner would be a good person to reach out for that. And Jordy as well. They're the historians. I'm actually terrible at history. So it's the irony of being on the initiative is not lost on me, but I'm a fierce enemy of injustice, and that's why I earned my spot.
Fantastic, thank you.
Sid, could you tell us a little bit more about the award you mentioned?
So the National Organization of State and Local History it's an organization that tries to share what all the communities are doing. So you can go onto their website and maybe I'll make that available at some point, maybe next week. I'll have that so you can look in there. But there's so many creative, stunningly creative, innovative ways people are bringing local history, not just Black history, but forgotten pieces of their own town's history and turning them into projects of all kinds. You just can't even imagine until you go on there. And ours is a little less innovative, but we had to apply for the award, which we did. We had to share every single thing. It took that probably was my biggest contribution to the group. It took me 6 full weeks of just gathering together all the information in the format that they wanted it. And it's not a competition. So there were a couple other organizations. I don't have the information at my fingertips, but they also received an award of excellence. And Jordy Viney, by the way, went to accept the award in person. And that is on the city's website, the Black History website. But if you want more information about that, I can get the details from Jordy.
We're bouncing topics here, but Andy and Glee, I was curious about how folks could see the presentation or the display rather of the clock, and could we have friends come, or what if there were school groups, or just what are our options with that, because it's such important history.
Lee, you want to go first, or?
Well, all those options are possible.
Yes, encouraged.
Yeah,
And how would that happen? Should folks reach out to one of you?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. The last history tour, we had the screen up in the foyer and the drone video was shown, and it was just a constant, and all the people who walked into the church stood, I think most of them all stood there and watched the drone video. So everybody really enjoyed that. And then the clock case we can on Sundays place it in the foyer in front of the door that doesn't open, by the bookcase and the name tags that can sit there. But then yes, it's possible that any kind of, let's say, for example, if there's kids groups that come in, there's always groups of students during the springtime, Mayish, and they're doing tours downtown, and I've been involved in that. Certainly, the church could be open, the case could be on display, because we could, if you're facing the church, that right door could open up, and we would just spin the case around so it's sitting right there in the door. So for people from the sidewalk could be able to see that along with school groups. So there's lots of options.
And thanks to Glee's great community connections, we've been in touch with the Moon, Museum of Old Newbury, as well as the Custom House.
Yeah.
And who knows, something may come of that where we're sharing an exhibit.
Yes.
And while we're having a little dead air time while people are thinking of questions, Bruce DeVoe did a fabulous job, our artist. He did tremendous amount of work. And I like to give a shout out to my son-in-law who built the case as well, Patrick Creamer.
So I have something to say.
All right, go right ahead, Sandra.
Yeah, so this is a wonderful, rich history that we've been offered here, and incredible work that everybody has done. What I've done is read a lot of the narratives, poetry, and sometimes music of, mostly the narratives and poetry of people who are contemporaries of these historic characters. And I really think it's important information and understanding and being able to see more of the context of the communities. And I think it's something, I don't know what the place for it is, but it's there, and I'd love to help with enriching the picture of contemporary, the contemporaries of these characters.
That's terrific. I welcome it at any point here, particularly as we put together the documents that help support the clock and the exhibit. That's fabulous, Sandra. Thank you.
That's a really good idea, Sandra. Wouldn't it be nice to have learned what books Caroline was reading in her downtime, however little downtime she had, and the music? That would be a wonderful addition to all of these historical eras.
I think churches have a lot of information, like the church that she went to, that those archives might have some things about music or other pieces of information. But I'm mostly reading from collection of published works, but it still is really rich, and I think, not all of them are very well publicized. So
And Sandra, you're an expert on one of our future dedications, Nancy Gardner Prince.
no, well, Jordy did so much great stuff for her, but I think there's still more about her life that I'm learning and writing about. I haven't been into Boston to the church that she belonged to there, where I would suspect there's some more information I could get. But anyway, it's a matter of time.
Right. And I think
haven't devoted enough time to it recently. So
in my mind, and Jordy and Cabria know this is how I feel, I think her story is the most incredible one of all, because of how ancient it is to have documentation of all the things she did. Tremendous courage. She has an interesting life. So
yeah, I
think
mean, she's an example of the resourcefulness that probably was there in so many cases we don't know about. Like, she could read and write, and so she was very talented and intelligent. And where did that come from in the environment she was in? It's just incredible to think of what they were able to do despite their circumstances.
right. And the fact that she lived with the very last Tsar of Russia is
Yeah.
so unique, along with her husband. It's so unique. But then her courage in single-handedly going into homes and taking the women that had been kidnapped, because it was so soon after the Civil War. Some people just couldn't deal with not having Black people under their thumb. And she would go in and grab particularly the women. I think her sister was one of them, et cetera. Anyway, so I just want to.
I don't know that story. I have to find out more about it. I know the story that about her chasing away the bounty hunters in Boston when they came to take some of the supposed runaway slaves. That was a great
Wow,
story.
that's
Mhm.
awesome.
I want to
Yeah.
see if there's any other. I love what Bob just put into the chat. As we celebrate our church's history, we should realize we are the history to those in the future. Indeed. And that's part of why we're remembering. Yes, Bob, very much so. Are there any other questions? Because I think we'll want to wrap up within the next 5 minutes or so. I know folks have other things to attend to. We're getting ideas in this chat. Is there anyone else who wanted to make a comment or ask a further question?
I was just going to thank Stan for the information he put in the chat.
I had a question about the making of that video.
Yes.
Was that done on a single day? And it just seemed so sophisticated and so powerful, succinct. It's not a long video, obviously. How was that done? Was that you, Andy, actually running the thing? How do you do something like that? It was wonderful. It is wonderful. I'm going to send it to all my family and friends. And,
Well,
it's
that's
just
awesome.
amazing.
Thank you for the
Yeah.
compliments. It's definitely not me. It was done by Jason
Jason.
Novak, who is a FAA certified drone pilot. He flew the drone through the church. The only one area he did not fly through was the back of the organ. He did a handheld GoPro camera and then edited it in later. And it was done over multiple days. Cynthia wanted to make sure we captured the flowers in the front of the church. So we did that right before at the end of the summer. And then later on in the fall, you'll see other clips edited in. But thank you. And please do share. That was the whole idea, to make this accessible, not only within our community, but also outside of our community.
Yes.
Jason did the custom house, right, Andy?
Yes, that's where
That's how
we,
I knew, because we talked about it. I said, hey, this guy did an incredible Zoom video of the custom house, and he's going in all the rooms. So take a look at the custom house. And so that was the connection. I probably talked to James, the director, and Andy
The
and I
drone,
talked
right,
about it.
Lee? It was pretty amazing. This little, as you said, that went all around, and it was awesome.
It's fabulous. And the content, and the fact that he's spliced in other things so it could be modified for certain events or occasions, augmented in some way. It's just wonderful. Very, very well done, and
let's,
obviously well received here today for those of us who are seeing it on the big screen for the first time.
thank you, Hugh. Again, and something we didn't show, there's a second video that was created for our events, to target events in the future. So, well, thank you all.
Thank you so much, everyone. And again, thank you, Sid, very much, Lee and Andy and Charlie and Nick and everyone who just showed up today and helped make this possible. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And we will see you all very soon.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody.